I'd like to have you describe for me the process and procedure that the FBI should normally follow when receiving criminal allegations from a trusted FBI source that an office holder engaged in bribery. For example, if the allegations include reference to evidence that would prove or disprove the bribery scheme, would standard procedure, operating procedure require the FBI to seek out that evidence?
Senator, in any instance where we receive information, an allegation, or a complaint, we apply the standards on the Attorney General guidelines and our dialogue.
So that's the investigation process that should have been followed with respect to the 1023. Apparently that process wasn't followed. For the sake of restoring credibility, the FBI must explain itself sooner rather than later.
Joining us now to discuss is my double, my fill-in, Andrea Kaye, the host of the Andrea Kaye Show. Andrea, thanks for being here tonight.
Always good to be with you.
Great. So I love Senator Chuck Grassley, but why is he acting so surprised? Shouldn't this be the assumed baseline for all Republicans moving forward, that of course the FBI is going to help Democrats? Are you a little surprised that we're still stuck on the whole, why isn't the FBI following standard operating procedure when it comes to the Bidens? Hey FBI, you need to explain yourself. Shouldn't we be long past that?
Well, yeah, I mean, this Columbo routine, scratch my head, gee, I just don't really understand what's going on here, and this, I'm verklempt because the FBI isn't cooperating, is just more cover for the FBI, quite frankly. Look, I mean, has Grassley not read, he is supposed to be one of our fiercest fighters, has he not read the Durham report, which detailed that the FBI should have never launched that investigation? And yet he's sitting here questioning some deputy FBI director as though there is ever any legitimacy in the efforts to decide on whether or not to investigate Hunter Biden versus the efforts in what went into the decisions to investigate and continue to illegally investigate Donald J. Trump. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It is. I mean, the FBI is just going to look at Republicans and say, hey, didn't you give us a pay raise a couple months ago? Like, what are you going to do about any of this? So that's where we kind of sit, where it's just these sound bites that we get that we can go rah, 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 but then nothing ever happens, and the next big outrage cycle happens. And it's like clockwork. So, back in 2019, we saw the impeachment against President Trump. Thankfully, he was acquitted by the Senate, but the House did impeach him on Ukraine for asking these very same questions that they psyoped us for years, saying, don't look, there's nothing to see behind the curtain. You're crazy for even asking. Back then, we at least had the audio video of Biden talking about Poroshenko and holding up the $1 billion if Poroshenko didn't drop investigations into companies like Burisma. Now we're finding out that there's even more tapes that the Burisma head said he had it as insurance policy, definitely buying influence. VP Biden want to get his son on the board, get him the cushy job, all the money, and then they're going to then sell influence policy in DC to kind of help this parasitic cycle going. But is this why they went so hard after President Trump back in 2019, early 2020 on this very issue?
Oh, absolutely. It's why even before that, before the phone call, they had planted spies in the White House in the form of Colonel Chow Thief, Vindman, right? He was sitting there for the purpose of listening in on phone calls just in case Trump decided to go there when it came to Ukraine. And what was the impeachment about, Kara? It was about that how dare Donald Trump abuse the power of the White House in order to illegally target somebody that would presumptively be his political opponent. Joe Biden hadn't even declared that he was even going to run, but that's really what the impeachment allegations were against Donald J. Trump. But yet now we have the sitting president of the United States of America who has literally gone to pursued jailing his political opponent with a phony FBI investigation and Department of Justice indictment.
Yeah, we see that right now, as you're saying, in Florida. We saw the Obama administration before that with then candidate Donald Trump doing the exact same thing. So Biden, Obama, doesn't matter who's in that Oval Office. I mean, they're both using that same power. And like you said, then trying to pin it like Saul Alinsky would do, blaming President Trump for what they themselves were guilty of. President Trump actually acting within his power, saying, hey, this is a little funky, what's going on in Ukraine? And again, pillory, destroy. They try and, distract and turn attention away. Therefore, voters going into the 2020 election, they think, Ukraine, isn't that corruption Trump? And see how they do the misdirection. The corruption has always been with the Bidens in Ukraine and the Clintons and all these other crime families. But now they get the public thinking Ukraine, Trump, because of the impeachment scandal. So everyone's been talking about this FBI form, the 1023 form from the confidential human source